Instead of dark, featureless, twisting corridors, we were treated to aesthetically pleasing colors and light. And instead of torture chambers and cells, we were greeted with comfortable cabins and friendly aliens of various species working in unison for a common cause. This was the Galactic Confederation, the antidote to the cruel and twisted empire of the Astri. Natasha and I were recognized as the leaders of our small party and were invited to a meeting in what looked like a conference room located in the guts of the ship, sitting around a circular table with an assortment of exotic and bizarre aliens. The being called Uriel was present and seemed to be chairing the meeting, but he was the only one present from his species. The rest of the motley crew included a werewolf-like creature with 6 eyes from the same race I'd encountered during the rebellion. Beside the wolfman sat a small, stumpy being covered in thick brown hair with wide, wandering eyes. And most bizarre of all was a black, eel-like creature contained within a 6-foot-long exoskeleton, as presumably it could not survive outside of its natural aquatic environment. Our alien host supplied us with electronic devices, which we inserted into our ears, allowing us to understand what was being said and communicate with our new allies. Uriel opened the discussion by welcoming Natasha and I, whilst congratulating us on our victory on board the Astri spaceship.
Your successful rebellion has struck a blow against the enemy, but it has not significantly reduced their capacity to operate inside your solar system. The problem is here.
He tapped his long fingers on a control panel to reveal a holographic display in the center of the table. Suddenly, I saw a representation of Jupiter and noted the smaller rocky satellites orbiting the planet, which were surely its moons. Uriel zoomed in on one moon in particular, a rock which should have been uninhabited, but when the image is sharpened, I noticed the ugly metal structure built into the moon's surface.
The Astri's Alpha facility, their forward operating base for this system, located upon the moon that the Earthlings call Europa. Recently, we deployed a substantial flotilla in an attempt to destroy this base, but the Astri detected our assault and deployed countermeasures to destroy our fleet in orbit. We understand that the Earth-based governments also made an attempt against the base, using a diplomatic mission as cover for a biological attack. This operation also ended in failure, and the human leaders on Earth have since submitted to the Astri pirates, providing tribute to the enemy by handing over their own citizens for mutilation and murder.
My jaw dropped as Natasha and I shared a look of shock and disgust. We had heard rumors of government complicity in the Astri's atrocities, but now the awful truth had been revealed.
It is clear that another conventional attack will not succeed. Therefore, we must resort to unconventional tactics.
The holographic image suddenly changed, showing what I guessed was a 3D image of the base's interior, revealing elevators, tunnels, and chambers deep below the moon's surface.
Our allies have taken considerable risks to bring us these schematics. We have identified the command center which coordinates the base's orbital defense systems. If we neutralize this system, we will be able to attack the facility from deep space with impunity.
He paused to zoom in, focusing upon a chamber located deep below the ground.
This is our target. It cannot be hit from orbit, but we have a secret weapon which the Astri cannot defend against. Teleportation.
The image showed a group suddenly materialize deep inside the base and behind enemy lines.
We can insert a small assault team here and neutralize the Astri defenses, allowing us to carry out our final assault.
I was just about following the briefing. Talk of teleportation and orbital assaults were clearly beyond my understanding, but the basic strategy the alien had described seemed sound. I had one question, however. That all sounds good on paper, but why do you need us? Uriel smiled through his slit-like mouth before answering.
Our assault team will be greatly outnumbered once we teleport into the facility. We have the element of surprise on our side, but our projections predict this will not be sufficient. Therefore, we needed a distraction to divert Astri forces away from the control room. The vast majority of the prisoners held in the base are human. You both have already led a successful prisoner rebellion and can do so again. We are asking you to set your people free so they can join the fight and defeat our mutual enemy.
The alien paused before continuing.
I realize we're asking a lot of you, given all you've already
Deviating
suffered.
from the plan.
It didn't even get a
No
chance to
accounting
finish
for
his sentence
whimsy.
before
Small
Natasha
differences
interjected.
lead to fatal
We'll do it.
consequences. I'm
I
sorry.
glanced across at my companion in shock, astonished that she'd committed us both to this dangerous mission without even consulting me. But deep down, I knew she was right. We were the only ones who could carry out this part of the operation, and we had to go in to save our fellow humans. We were soldiers in this war now, and there was no turning back. During the next few days, Natasha and I were subjected to intense training in preparation for the attack.
Have
We
to
weren't
be ready.
exactly novices, since I was a combat veteran, and Natasha had survived months of abuse in the Astri torture chambers. Nevertheless, we had to learn to use advanced Confederation weapons and how to fight effectively against Astri warriors. This was done through the use of full immersion VR technology, which literally placed us in a replica of the Astri's moon base, where we had the opportunity to fight scarily realistic digital representations of enemy warriors. It was after one particularly intense and draining training session when Uriel came to see me, addressing me as I was removing my headset and equipment.
How is your training progressing?
The alien asked, its dark gray eyes focusing upon me with a curious intensity. Good, I repeated, not really knowing what more I could say.
The attack will commence tomorrow. Our assessments show you are as ready as possible for combat. Unfortunately, there is no effective way to prepare you for teleportation. It is not a pleasant process, but I can assure you that the necessary safety protocols are in place.
I gulped in dismay, feeling a cold terror run through me as I considered the alien's words. But I maintained my tough front, replying with typical bravado. Well, I'm looking forward to killing a lot of Astri. Uriel produced what I believed was a frown before he asked his next question.
You have hatred for the enemy.
Of course. I shot back in surprise. Didn't you see what they did to the prisoners?
Yes, indeed. We have documented the atrocities committed as evidence against the Astri Empire. Sadly, these are scenes we have witnessed all across the galaxy as we take the fight to the enemy.
They're animals, I cried. Worse than animals. Violence is the only language they understand.
Yes.
Uriel said thoughtfully.
You were the Astri's prisoner for only a short space of time. Isn't that right? Your female companions suffered worse at their hands.
I thought of Natasha, and anger rose up inside of me. You can say that again. They tortured her for months, murdered her friends. You'd understand if you'd suffered what she had. For the first time, I noticed a glimmer of emotion in the alien's eyes before it answered.
The Astri killed my entire family. They executed them one by one and made me watch.
My jaw dropped. I was astonished by Uriel's admission and couldn't find the words to respond.
Our enemy has carried out many heinous acts, and it is easy to succumb to blind hatred as we fight back against them. But have you ever considered the Astri perspective?
What the hell do you mean? I shot back in dismay. Do you want me to feel empathy for these bloodthirsty psychopaths?
In order to effectively fight the enemy, we must first understand them. We have learned much from the few Astri prisoners that have fallen into our hands. Our neural technology has permitted us to monitor their brainwaves, to even tap into their memories. If you will indulge me, I would like to share one last simulation with you before the mission. I believe you will find the experience helpful in the battle to come.
He nodded at the headset in my hands. I was reluctant to comply, given how exhausted I was after the intense training of the past few days. However, I was intrigued, and thought that whatever Uriel wanted to show me must be important. So I nodded, putting my headset back on and linking up my equipment before I was thrown into yet another virtual scenario. I found myself falling, the ground coming at me fast. There was no time to do anything as I rapidly descended from a height, but thankfully, thick vegetation broke my fall before I hit the forest floor with a heavy bump. Glaring up through the foliage, I saw a dropship briefly hover in the sky above before it moved on, slowly flying off into the horizon. I soon realized that I'd fallen from the aircraft, or more accurately, I was tossed out like a piece of garbage. My avatar had been dropped into the middle of what looked like a tropical rainforest, but this wasn't the weirdest part. I looked down at my hands and saw claws. My torso was covered in red scales. To my horror, I realized Uriel had put me inside an Astri's body. I had no idea why he had done such a thing, but I guess this is what he wanted to show me. Something else was wrong, however. I wasn't a fully grown Astri like the 7-foot-tall warriors I'd previously fought with. Instead, it seemed like I was a mere child, not fully developed. I felt small, vulnerable, and frightened. Who would have thought Astri could feel fear? I nervously explored my surroundings, walking forward awkwardly upon stumpy legs. The atmosphere was stifling and the vegetation thick. I heard the harsh buzzing of what I assumed were insects and used my claws to cut through the foliage. It seemed like I was deep in a jungle, but the plants and trees were strange and unfamiliar to me, multicolored and potentially deadly. My progress was slow, but finally I fought my way to a clearing, looking up to the sky above. I was astonished to see 2 suns shining down upon me, one large, the second much smaller. I wondered whether this was the Astri homeworld, recalling how they had once lived in a jungle-type environment. I didn't have much time to ponder this, however, as my attention was drawn by movement close to the tree line. I turned around, instinctively on edge as my instincts told me I was in danger. However, I lowered my guard when I saw another Astri child just like me, a red-scaled reptilian with fear in his eyes as he nervously emerged into the clearing. For a moment, I thought I'd found a friend, but then I saw the crude spear in his claws, a homemade weapon fashioned from a tree branch with a sharpened end, and the Astri youth roared before he charged me, quickly closing the gap as he came at me. I reacted on instinct, discovering that my alien avatar had physical attributes well beyond my own. Waiting to the last possible moment, I ducked and avoided my enemy's thrust, simultaneously slashing out with a large claw in my right hand. I sliced the Astri across his arm, making the youth squeal in pain, his dark blood falling on the grass below. The other Astri glared back at me, pain and anger in its yellow eyes as it prepared to launch a second attack. But suddenly, all hell broke loose as the ground we stood upon began to shake violently before it collapsed completely, throwing me off my feet. As I lay helpless on the grass, I witnessed a hole emerge in the ground in front of me and watched as a huge creature emerged from its subterranean lair. I recoiled in horror at the sight of the monster, a huge spider-like being with a sharp stinger attached to its mighty tail. I crawled backwards in a frantic attempt to escape, but thankfully, I wasn't the beast's target. Instead, the predator went for the other Astri, striking him before he had a chance to react, and burying its stinger deep into his back. I watched in impotent horror as the young Astri screamed and was dragged back down into the hole by the monster, still alive and facing what could only be a horrific fate. I didn't wait around for the beast to come back for seconds, however, soon getting up on my clawed feet and running as fast as my stumpy legs would carry me, heading for what I naively thought was the safety of the forest. I don't know how long I ran for, but I was exhausted and utterly lost by the time I finally stopped, now finding myself deep in the alien jungle. I looked around and saw a ravine leading down to a narrow river and heard war cries and the sounds of pitched battle. I should have run, but confessed that I was curious, electing to climb down into the ravine to get a closer look. There I found a scene of bloody anarchy as a dozen or more Astri youngsters fought one another with claws and improvised weapons, stabbing, biting, and tearing as they went for the kill. I noticed how they were roughly the same age and size as my avatar. They were also a mix of male and female. I'm not sure how I could tell the difference, but somehow I could. Both sexes were just as vicious as the other, however, fighting for their lives as they spilt the blood of their compatriots across the forest floor. I stood in shocked awe for a time as I watched the bloodbath play out. But I was brought back to reality when a female Astri jumped me from behind, knocking me on my feet. A brutal struggle ensued as she viciously tore at me with her claws and teeth. I felt the pain of each blow and responded in kind, biting deep into her exposed throat, the metallic taste of blood filling my mouth as my fangs bit down into tough flesh. Once I withdrew my teeth, I saw the female Astri slowly bleeding to death on the ground, a fatal bite wound in her throat. Stunned and in shock, I staggered away from the battle and towards a small watering hole running off from the stream. An apparently calm body of water where I hoped to find some respite. I approached the shoreline with the intention of drinking and washing my wounds, but my instincts failed me, and I didn't see the dark shape below the waterline until it was too late. In an instant, a new horror emerged from the water, grabbing me in its mighty jaws before I could react. Suddenly, I was under the surface, teeth biting deep into my torso as my lungs filled with water. I felt immense pain and thought the beast would rip me in half. Instead, it spun me in the water like a crocodile would to its prey, and my pain became so great that I lost consciousness.
My family is as pretentious as it is large.
I awoke sometime later, coughing out water from my lungs as I tried to sit up, only to reel in agony. The beast had nearly bitten me in two, and I'd lost a lot of blood, but somehow I was still alive and back on the shoreline. But I knew I wasn't safe. I heard rustling in the bushes behind me and realized the predator was returning to finish what it had started. Fighting the pain, I prepared to defend myself, but then it all ended. I gasped for breath, grabbing at the headset and ripping it off my face. Looking down, I searched for wounds on my body, only to find I was unharmed. The sweat was pouring from my every pore, and my head was pounding. Everything I'd experienced had seemed so real, and yet it was merely a simulation. And when I looked up, I saw Uriel watching over me, his black, emotionless eyes observing my reaction with cool indifference. I angrily tore the various appendages from my body while confronting my alien companion. What the hell was that?
That was a digital representation of the early memories of a captured Astri warrior.
He replied dispassionately. Why did you show me this?
To help you understand. An Astri upbringing is not an easy one. They are taken from their mothers as soon as they are able to walk, and unceremoniously dumped into the savage jungles where they have to fight tooth and nail to survive. They are not permitted to return to civilization until they have killed a fellow Astri youth. Only 20 to 30% of Astri children live through this brutal initiation. And this is only the beginning of their induction into a world of pitiless, never-ending violence.
My God, I exclaimed, astonished by the brutal realities of Astri society.
Please remember this experience when you go into battle. The Astri may well be monsters, but they are also products of their environment. We cannot let hate consume us. Otherwise, we are no better than they are.
I nodded my head thoughtfully, finally understanding the message Uriel had so bluntly delivered. The alien had given me much to think about, but my focus had to be on surviving the coming fight. I can't even begin to understand the technology we used to teleport our team into the enemy base. All I can say is that the process was horrific, and isn't something I ever want to experience again. One moment I was standing in my combat gear, holding my rifle, on board the Confederation ship, and suddenly I was engulfed by an all-encompassing light, temporarily blinding me and feeling like every atom of my body was being burned. But the light and heat didn't just surround me. It entered me, creeping through my pores and deconstructing my fragile body from the inside out. I screamed in absolute terror as it felt like my flesh was being shredded into a million pieces. For a moment, everything went black, and it was the most terrifying feeling in the universe. Because, for a time, my consciousness existed, but my physical body didn't. I was trapped in the nothingness between point A and point B. For a chilling moment, I believed I could be stuck in this hellish limbo forever. But thankfully, this didn't happen. The process of my rematerialization was equally horrific, as all my pieces were merged back into one, the light fading as I found myself inside a dark tunnel. My head was still spinning, and I felt the bile rising up in my throat. To my shame, I vomited all over the metal gangway, keeling over as my whole body shook. It was Natasha who came to my aid, placing a firm hand on my shoulder before helping me back up to my feet. Adjusting to my surroundings, I saw that our whole assault team had made it through the teleportation process. Our squad was indeed a small one, consisting of Natasha and I, Uriel, and a warrior from the werewolf race who we called Axel, and 3 automated war machines, which seemed to do most of the fighting within the Confederation military. I looked at Uriel and noted how the alien carried no weapon. When I questioned him on this point, his answer was typically philosophical and fatalistic.
I am a diplomat, not a soldier. I have a role to play in the fight to come. If the enemy take my life, then so be it.
Our party was split in two, with Uriel leading the group heading to the subterranean control room, while Natasha and I followed a single aerial war machine, which led us through the twisting tunnels and towards our objective. I looked to Natasha as we ran. Noting the dark look behind her eyes, and knowing she wanted to inflict brutal vengeance upon the Astri enemy, I saw the hatred in her heart, and it terrified me. We eventually reached the end of the final corridor and waited while our robotic drone forced the door open, revealing a vast chamber on the far side. I was hit by a familiar stench of unwashed bodies and slow, creeping death. We slowly crept into the chamber, looking up at the masses of human prisoners contained within cages, stacked up to the ceiling high above. We stayed in the shadows, praying that we wouldn't be detected before our task was completed. The hovering war machine made its way to the control station, where it began the process of disabling the security system and releasing the prisoners, while meanwhile, Natasha and I kept a lookout. The attack came like a bolt out of the blue, the Astri guard leaping at us with a blind fury in its cruel yellow eyes. He went for Natasha first, thrashing out and knocking her to her feet before she had a chance to shoot. A moment later, the Astri stood over Natasha with its war spear poised against her throat. I reacted on pure instinct, aiming my gun and pulling the trigger. A barrage of needle-like rounds tore through the red-scaled Astri, almost cutting it in two and throwing its body backwards. I charged forward, reaching out to pull Natasha up. "Are you okay?" I exclaimed with concern.
I'm fine, but those bastards will have heard the gunshots. We're running out of time.
As if on cue, sirens started to blare and red lights flashed. The base was now on alert, but thankfully, our robotic guide finished its work, and each and every cage door automatically swung open, much to the shock and surprise of the emaciated and tortured prisoners within. The first brave few emerged, with one thin and heavily scarred naked man walking towards us, a glimmer of hope visible in his bloodshot eyes. "You're humans," he stuttered in near disbelief. "Are you here to rescue us?" Natasha responded by pulling a knife from her belt and handing it to him.
You're going to need to fight for your freedom. Now's your chance for revenge.
The freed prisoner smiled through his cracked lips and eagerly accepted the blade. Others soon followed, filing out of their cages one by one as they joined the resistance. Just then, a shutter door at the far end of the chamber shot open, and two Astri guards emerged, opening fire with their rifles as they came. Natasha and I returned fire while ducking for cover, but the freed prisoners charged forward like a human wave, screaming with a berserker fury as they flung themselves at the two Astri. The guards continued shooting, killing several before they were overwhelmed, stabbed and beaten by a dozen vengeful prisoners who literally ripped their abusers to pieces. As Natasha and I watched on, we were suddenly shaken by a mighty explosion from below our feet. A moment later, we heard Uriel's monotone voice through our earpiece as he said,
The Central Command has been neutralized. The Astri's orbital defenses are down. Reinforcements will be with us shortly.
I looked to Natasha and we shared a smile, and for the first time, I truly believed we were going to win this. The reinforcements arrived soon after, as Confederation ships entered Jupiter's orbit, and numerous fighting drones were deployed throughout the Astri's base. It seemed the enemy were totally unprepared for the attack, and they proved unable to defend the base once their security systems were down. There were pockets of resistance as surviving warriors fought frantic battles against the robotic invaders, but their outposts were all gradually overrun. Meanwhile, Natasha and I led a group of liberated prisoners as we moved deeper into the facility in search of other survivors. Natasha showed a frightening zeal while dispatching wounded Astri soldiers, her eyes lighting up as she pumped bullets into their limp bodies. It seemed that her lust for vengeance had consumed her, and I began to fear there was no way back for my friend. And Natasha's anger only grew as we descended deeper underground, navigating the dark, twisting corridors and discovering fresh horrors and further evidence of the enemy's atrocities. In one vast chamber, we discovered a substantial amphitheater. A circular arena of seats looked down upon what could only be described as a killing zone. The ground covered in blood and viscera, which stood as a lasting reminder of the slaughter which had occurred here. And it got worse. On the next level down, we discovered several artificial habitats containing savage alien beasts. In the first was a crocodile-like predator swimming in a tank of murky green water, greedily feasting upon severed limbs and assorted body parts from its many human victims. Next, we observed an enclosure from a viewing platform above it, watching in sickened horror as dozens of small spider-like creatures burst through the ribcage of a still-living man, feeding on his innards as he screamed in absolute agony and blind terror. But when Natasha and I reached the bottom level of the hellish facility, we found something we could never have anticipated. The room we entered stood in contrast to the bleak and dark metal corridors we traveled to get here. Instead of darkness, we were confronted by bright light and white walls. Walking into what looked like a hospital ward and noting the incubator-type transparent cribs lined up in rows of 3. And inside of the incubator were Astri infants, squealing little red-scaled reptiles staring up at us with their big yellow eyes. I remembered my time in the VR simulation and what Uriel had told me about the Astri youth, saying they were thrust into battle as soon as they were old enough to walk. But these infants appeared to be newly born, unable to look after themselves, and so still needing protection from a hostile universe. I stood in the doorway, awestruck and taken aback by this latest unexpected development. But Natasha didn't miss a beat, confidently marching into the room and proceeding to the nearest incubator. Before I got a chance to stop her, the woman lifted her rifle and fired a single round, the bullet smashing through the transparent covering and exploding inside the infant's head, killing it instantly in a horrific and bloody manner. Jesus! I screamed in shocked dismay. Why the hell did you do that? Natasha simply shrugged her shoulders and answered in a matter-of-fact tone.
They're Astri, our enemy.
But they're only babies, I protested. They're harmless.
They may be babies now, but they'll grow up to be cold-blooded murderers. I won't allow that to happen.
She moved on to the next crib, raising her gun again. I heard the high-pitched scream of the Astri infants and couldn't bear it. As I remembered my time in the simulation, I realized that the Astri weren't born evil. They were made into monsters, and these children could not be blamed for the sins of their fathers. I slowly raised my own gun, aiming at my companion as I spoke firmly. Don't do it, Natasha. Put your gun down and walk away. I saw the hurt in her eyes as she glared at me, and I heard the raw anger in her voice as she spoke.
You damn traitor! It's either them or us, don't you understand? This is a war of extermination!
I doubled down, tightening my grip on the gun as I repeated my order. Put the gun down, Natasha!
Fuck you!
She screamed back. A second later, she fired, killing a second Astri infant, and in an instant she swung around, and I knew I was her next target. I acted on pure instinct, pulling the trigger and feeling the kickback as it fired. The round tore through Natasha's chest, propelling her body backwards. I ran forward, reaching out to catch her as she fell, but it was already too late. The spark disappeared from Natasha's eyes, and her life was extinguished. I cradled my comrade's dead body in my arms, and was near maddened by the screaming of Astri babies as the tears rolled down my cheeks. And when I looked up, I saw the alien Uriel standing in the doorway, a hint of sympathy now apparent in his large black eyes as he observed the bloody scene. He didn't utter a word to me. What was there left to say? The battle was over. But had the heavy price we'd paid for victory been worth it? That's the question I continue to ask myself as I record this message for broadcast. Nevertheless, I'm here to tell you that the threat few on Earth knew existed has been lifted. For now, at least. The Astri's base on the Europa moon is now in the hands of the Galactic Confederation, and therefore, the enemy will be unable to abduct human beings for the first time in generations. Thousands of lives have surely been saved, but the war is far from over. The Astri Empire is still powerful and dangerous, and there is no guarantee that their forces won't return to our solar system. Denial and complacency are no longer an option in a universe full of deadly threats, and if our governments aren't prepared for this fight, then we're going to need new leaders. But this is a matter for the citizens of Earth. I will not be returning to my home planet, not for a long time anyway. My fellow survivors and I have joined the Confederation forces and will continue the fight against the Astri Empire in every corner of the galaxy. But I will never forget Uriel's lessons. We will not lower ourselves to their level, and will never lose our humanity. There will be no victory parades for our unknown army, no salutes or commemorations. But to those listening, please remember us and know that we are fighting and dying for your freedom.
Something to see.
Keep your distance, strangers. Or better yet, leave.
Inquisition, right? We'd heard you were in the area. I'm Taven. Forgive my friend's caution. We weren't expecting anyone.
Hey everyone. So as I said in the last entry in the series, one thing I'm really enjoying about these stories is the sci-fi element. The two things that I thought were pretty interesting with the story was the helmets that he put on to experience the Astries' life, and then the segment where Natasha killed the baby aliens. And I like the contrast between the two characters. They've both been through a traumatic event, and it's interesting to see how they just handle it in different ways, with Natasha becoming more set on vengeance and the main character being more reserved, although that could have just been influenced by Uriel. But I'm curious to see what all of you think about this story. I got a new microphone, so on my next few uploads you might notice a bit of a quality increase if I can figure out the settings. Not really sure how it works, I need to learn some stuff about it, but yeah, I'm excited to see how it turns out. Also, I was working on some music yesterday, and I was thinking it would be fun to do another music stream sometime. So if that's something you all are interested in, then be sure to let me know. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the story. With that said, have a good day.
I should stop talking. If the chamber turns out to be empty, I'll look like an idiot.
If you intend to explore the ruins, perhaps I can help.
Our initial work will be tedious, and my party's more than capable of searching the ruins. Perhaps I could send word if we find something. Dareth Shirar.
Do I have the thing that gives me a search? In what exact area? Alright, that's... I guess I got all their flags. I have to actually get to that dragon now. So I'm 2 levels above. Okay. To take care of a frost giant. I have corrupting Sarah. Well, we need a new bow. Obviously junk. all this now? Good grief. Don't need that many. Yeah, Staff of the Fire Drake. There we go. What do you have on, Soul? Tyrdas. Okay, Staff of the Fire Drake. Go on, puppy. Go ahead. No, I don't need that. Oh. And of course, Iron Bowl. Is that what you're wearing? Why? Well, you need a new armor. You need your own hat. Okay, we need to do that. Oh, weapon is mainly what I was going for. Obviously not. Well, oh really? Hmm. Oh, that's sweet. What do you got? Spirit resistance. Oh, oh, you. Sit down, puppy. You can do it. Let's see. Yes. the heck? Not even put on in the. Not even using shot. No. Okay. Are you using shot? You can use a life drain too. Okay.
Nothing to report, sir.
Investigate fatal. Oh. I need to gather crystal grays too. Because I can't buy them from anybody. Alright. Where's... Oh, well. I'm supposed to be killing a dragon, not investigating a crystal grace right now. Pause. I took care of your fortress, dudes. Why are you still here? Get off of me. Burn. Smuggler's letter to Colin. Oh. See the other stories connected on this playlist. Alien abductions.
Most of you hearing this account won't believe my story. I wouldn't believe it if I hadn't lived through the horror. To the best of my knowledge, only 2 people have ever survived this hell and made it back to Earth in one piece. And sadly, the other is no longer living. As for myself, I was warned by government suits of the very serious consequences which would follow if I ever went public with my story. But I've decided to do so anyway, because I believe people need to know what's really out there, and I fear the truth will become apparent soon enough, as an intergalactic war is coming to our doorstep. As with most of their abduction victims, I'm not special or important. In fact, I was at the lowest rung of society, a down and out who'd fallen on hard times as I lost my job, my home, and fell victim to an alcohol addiction, sleeping rough and filling my belly with cheap vodka to keep myself warm at night. My confession to having an alcohol problem will surely bring my account into question, but I can assure you that I was quite sober when the events I'll describe took place. On the night in question, I'd taken refuge in an abandoned bus shelter set along a lonely back road, falling asleep under the stars after I'd emptied my bottle. I don't know at what time I was awoken, but I do vividly remember my senses were simultaneously overloaded, my ears ringing with a deafening buzzing sound and my eyes temporarily blinded by an intense white light. Suddenly and inexplicably, I felt my body rising off the bench, my form being pulled upwards into the night sky. My last memory was of a dark, cigar-shaped aircraft in the sky above me, and to my horror, I realized I was being pulled towards it. But then, I felt myself falling out of consciousness, my eyes closing as my whole world went dark. I awoke an indeterminable length of time later in a very alien place, quite literally. The first thing I noticed was the pain I felt throughout my body, a dull throbbing as my bones and joints all ached simultaneously. And then I felt the cold as I discovered that my body was completely naked, my clothes gone as I lay against cold metal, my skin freezing and body shaking. It caused me physical pain to open my eyes, but when I did, there was little I could see, because the steel-plated room was dark, only dimly lit by a faint red light. It was at this point that I panicked, quickly standing up on my trembling legs as I darted toward the wall. But I didn't get far, as suddenly I experienced a shooting pain pulsating through my body, feeling like I'd been hit by a bolt of lightning. I screamed in agony, falling down to the cold, hard floor as I reached for my throat and was horrified to find a metal collar secured around my neck. In an act of panicked desperation, I tore at the collar, trying to remove it, but instead being hit with another surge of electricity that tore through me.
"I wouldn't do that if I were you,"
called out a voice from the darkness, his tone surprisingly calm given the circumstances.
"The shock collar is programmed to go off if you make any sudden movements or if you try to remove it. The voltage will steadily increase until you either lose consciousness or your heart stops."
I experienced a flood of emotions upon hearing his words. Confusion, anger, and fear, but I listened to the stranger's voice, not wishing to go through that pain again. Slowly, I opened my dry lips and stuttered out my words. "Who are you? And what the hell is this place?"
"My name is Gideon, and I am like you, a prisoner here."
"Is there anyone else there?" I asked cautiously.
Yes,
Came the first response.
I'm Tanya, and I don't know why I'm here.
There was a pause before the next voice called out of the darkness, his voice trembling as he spoke.
"Max. I'm Max. I don't know why this is happening. I want to go home."
"I'm sure we all do,"
answered Gideon.
"But alas, that's not going to happen."
I shook my head, imagining this must be some kind of vivid nightmare, but in my heart, I knew it was real. "You haven't answered my question," I answered as my fear began to turn into rage. "Where the hell are we? And who's done this to us?" I heard Gideon sneering before he replied.
"Well, technically that's 2 questions, but I'm happy to help. Although I suspect you may not like the answers. It's difficult to explain in words, so perhaps it's easier if I show you all."
I heard footsteps and saw the shape of a man slowly walking across the metal floor and towards the adjacent wall. He tapped on a hidden control panel with his bony fingers and entered a code, and suddenly the mechanism began and a shutter slowly opened, unveiling a scene which brought terror to my heart. Because when the shutter was finally open, we all saw a transparent porthole-like window looking outwards, showing a dark sky adorned with distant stars, and a blue and green globe that we all recognized very well. I slowly pulled myself up, ignoring the throbbing pains in my naked body as I walked barefoot across to the window and observed the scene in disbelief, scanning the outlines of the familiar green continents, the mighty blue oceans, and the shifting storm fronts which swept across the globe. To my horror, I realized I was looking down at Earth, which could only mean one thing. I was no longer on my home planet. The reflected light of the Earth's surface now illuminated the room we were held inside. A bare metal cell with few visible amenities other than a stinking hole in the ground, which I guessed was meant to be a toilet, and hard concrete slabs in the place of beds. I also saw my fellow prisoners clearly for the first time. Tanya and Max appeared as I did, naked and humiliated and beaten. their eyes full of terror as they saw what I did. Clearly, they were both in a state of shock. I tried to maintain their dignity by focusing on their faces rather than their nude forms. Tanya was a young woman, slim, dark-haired, and attractive, although I recognized the telltale signs of addiction on her, such as pasty skin, bloodshot eyes, and track marks on her arms. Max was an older man, his physique flabby and skin wrinkled. I saw raw terror in his wide eyes, which made me think he was on the verge of a psychological breakdown. Gideon was different, however. I noticed he wore a shock collar like we all did, but he was also fully clothed, wearing a white robe which covered his dignity. True, he didn't look in the best of health, his body emaciated and eyes sullen, as if he had seen too many horrors. It was also clear that he knew more about our situation than the rest of us. I wasn't the only one to come to this conclusion, as soon all turned on the mysterious Gideon. "How the hell did you know about the shutter?" I demanded. Gideon held his hands up defensively as he answered.
I can explain everything. Just give me a chance.
Bullshit! You're playing with us, man!
Max screamed angrily.
Yeah.
Tanya agreed.
How do we know you're not the one who did this to us? Why the hell should we trust you?
In an instant, all three of us were advancing upon Gideon, our fists clenched as we prepared to beat the living hell out of him. Gideon's eyes widened and he lifted his hands up higher, slowly backing off as he said,
You shouldn't do that.
"Screw you!" I yelled as I lurched forward. But a second later, I was on the floor, my body convulsing as the shock collar delivered another agonizing jolt. I looked over to see my two companions similarly incapacitated, the two of them rolling on the metal surface in agony. When our punishment was over, we all glared upwards, seeing Gideon looking down upon us with a barely concealed look of smug satisfaction on his lips.
I did warn you.
Slowly and painfully, I got up on my feet, and my fellow prisoners did likewise as we looked to Gideon for answers.
My friends, as I've already explained, I am a prisoner here just like the three of you. It just so happens that our captors have allowed me certain privileges and access to limited information. Why, I cannot say, although I suspect it's part of their plan for me to explain the situation to new arrivals.
My mind was racing, my sweat pouring from my skin. None of this made any sense.
I don't understand.
Asked Tanya, breaking the tense and confused silence.
Who's done this to us? Who the hell is holding us, and where the hell are we?
Gideon nodded before replying.
Where we are should be obvious, although I understand it's a lot to take in. Nevertheless, we are clearly in space above our home planet. As to who's holding us, well, that's more difficult to explain. Our captors are not of this world. I assume they come from another star system in our galaxy, although from where exactly, I cannot say. They've shared little with me about their culture or civilization. I only know that their technology is vastly superior to our own.
So, what do you say? We've been abducted by aliens? I exclaimed in shocked disbelief.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Gideon confirmed grimly.
Alien abduction?
Tanya interjected excitedly.
What, you mean like anal probing and all that shit?
Max emitted a nervous laughter, but Gideon didn't share in the joke, his face remaining like stone.
I'm afraid it's far worse than that,
He said solemnly.
They have no interest in human anatomy, except for the purposes of inflicting physical pain upon us.
A chill ran down my spine as I asked, "What the hell do you mean?" Gideon didn't answer straight away, instead pointing and directing our attention back towards the porthole. I turned my head to look, instantly sickened by the horror that I witnessed, as first one and then a second human body slowly floated through space and past the window, their naked bodies frozen in the cold vacuum. The first was a man, the second a woman, and both of their corpses showed obvious signs of torture, with deep incisions made into their flesh, burn marks on their skin, and digits sliced off their hands. Their bulging, bloodshot eyes were still open, filled with pain and terror of their final moments. But the most disturbing part was that the tops of their heads were gone and their brains were missing. We all watched in shocked awe as the bodies disappeared from sight, lost forever in the cruel emptiness of space. Sweet Jesus, I muttered, my whole body shaking with revulsion as I slowly backed away from the porthole.
The last batch.
Gideon explained solemnly.
Our captors are finished with them.
I struggled to force the words out of my throat. They murdered them, tortured them first, and then dumped their bodies into space. Why? Why would they do this?
Well, that's the $1,000 question, isn't it?
Gideon answered cryptically.
I don't have all the answers, but I've been on this ship for a while. I've observed what occurs and have had some limited communication with our captors, receiving as much information as a master would provide to his slave. From this, I have reached some conclusions. All living organisms are a product of their environment, and the traits they evolve allow them to survive in said environment. The trouble with evolution is that it's hard to shake. We humans consider ourselves an advanced and civilized species, but we are still prone to primal, animalistic urges.
We'll talk later.
Now, imagine a species which evolves on a planet much more dangerous than our own, an environment populated by many highly aggressive organisms, where the evolutionary victor would need to be smarter, stronger, and more ruthless than its competitors to end up on top. Move forward a few millennia, and that species is now technologically advanced and capable of intergalactic space travel. It meets other similarly developed civilizations, and inevitably, there is conflict. Terrible wars fought across star systems, resulting in countless deaths.
Gideon paused briefly as he looked out of the porthole and towards our far distant planet. It would be safe to say that we were all hanging on his every word, although the implications of what he was telling us were both extraordinary and terrifying.
Eventually, these wars ended in stalemate, as multiple civilizations fought each other to a bloody standstill. A new order emerges, a sort of galactic UN formed to keep the peace. The war is over. However, our captors still have those same predatory instincts, a leftover from their violent evolution.
I'm just glad you're all
So,
right.
what do they do with these murderous urges? Well, they come to a place like Earth, an uncontacted backwater planet on the edge of the galaxy, beyond the laws of the Galactic Confederation. Here, they can kidnap with impunity, taking those who will not be missed and inflicting sadistic tortures upon them before brutally ending their lives.
Wait, what?
By such underhand methods, our captors can indulge their dark
Minnesota's
impulses
romance.
without
Wait,
risking
what?
war with
What
their
happened?
galactic rivals.
I shook my head in dismay, my mind racing as I tried to make sense of this madness. In the end, it was Tanya who vocalized what we all must have been thinking.
And after you
So,
threw a bottle
You're
of
saying these
delirium at me?
psychos are like space versions of Ted Bundy or Jeffrey Dahmer? Like, they travel light years just to torture and murder people?
Gideon frowned before replying.
Well, it's a bit more complicated than that, but in a nutshell,
I've
yes,
met good people here.
this is the situation.
No one had my back.
I couldn't believe it. My exhausted brain told me that this couldn't be true, and even if it was, there must be a way out. What do we do? I asked frantically. How do we get out of this hellhole? Gideon sighed loudly before replying.
You don't,
Why am I
I'm
up
afraid.
here? Where
There
am
is no
I?
escape from this
Oh my
ship,
gosh.
and there's no way you
I'm
can
on the
avoid your
wrong
fate.
side.
All of you will die here. Sadly, this is inevitable.
Bullshit! I cried in angry defiance. That can't be true. You survived. Why haven't they killed you?
Our captors keep me alive because I serve their purposes. For now, at least. I suspect they will kill me once I outlive my usefulness. Or perhaps they're just saving me for last. In any case,
There's stuff
I have accepted that I'll never leave this ship alive.
Suddenly, all of our attention was drawn to the corner of the cell where Max had curled himself up in a fetal position, maniacally nodding his head back and forth as he muttered in a state of disconnected panic.
Excellent work, Commander. I'll investigate
No.
the mine.
No,
Destroying
this
the Red
can't be
Temple and source
happening.
of lyrium will
This
be a
can't be
lost cause
real.
you won't soon forget.
I shouldn't be here. I don't deserve this. I should not be here.
A moment later, and the far wall lit up, as suddenly a previously hidden doorway appeared and slid open.
They're coming to claim their first victim.
Gideon warned, a fear now evident in his voice. We all backed away from the doorway, trying to prepare ourselves for whatever monstrosity emerged from the other side. But Max had lost his mind, standing up and attempting to run for the door, screaming.
Let me out of here. I need out.
He moved quickly before any of us had time to react. What happened next was a violent blur in my memory, as a long implement extended out of the darkness and struck Max hard on the head, knocking him backwards and down to the metal floor. The creature which emerged from the shadows and entered our cell was something like from a nightmare. My descriptive skills are not good enough to do the alien being justice, but the best way I can describe the thing's appearance is a cross between a human and a lizard.
What would you suggest?
The alien was about 7 feet tall, its body covered in smooth red scales, although it also wore what appeared to be some kind of body armor over its torso. Its snout-like mouth was filled with sharp teeth. It had no nose, just 2 slits for nostrils, and its large, dark eyes were those of a reptile, cold, calculating, and predatory. Its arms were long, and I noted that it had opposable thumbs and digits, meaning that it was able to hold and direct the pike-like weapon in its claws, the same metal rod it had used to strike poor Max with. Its legs looked powerful, and I saw its middle toes were adorned with sharp, curved claws about 6 inches long. It tapped these claws menacingly on the metal floor as it surveyed us, its naked and helpless human victims. At this point, Max unfortunately regained consciousness, glancing up at the beast above him and screaming out in absolute terror. I swore I could see a cruel smirk on what passed for the alien's lips, its eyes widening with a sadistic pleasure as it lifted its weapon. A second later, Max's limp body was roughly dragged across the floor, his shock collar acting like a magnet which attached itself to the end of the alien's metal pike, allowing it to easily pull the kicking and screaming Max out of the cell and into the dark corridor beyond. A moment later, the door slammed shut, leaving a trail of Max's blood and urine on the floor, and the rest of us trapped inside, dealing with the shock of what we'd witnessed.
My God, what will they do with him?
Tanya asked with a trembling voice.
Trust me, you don't want to know.
Gideon answered. I sat down in a corner, my head in my hands as I desperately tried to think. Surely there must be a way out, I thought. This couldn't be the end. But things only got worse over the next few hours. Clearly, our captors enjoyed tormenting us because, although the cell walls were thick, they deliberately piped in sound using some sort of speaker system. What we heard were the screams and pleas of our companion, Max, as he was subjected to unspeakable tortures. We heard every ignored cry for mercy, every incision made into his flesh, and a foul hissing sound that I can only assume was the reptilian alien's equivalent of laughter. And whenever we tried to plug our ears to block out the sound, we would get shocked from the callers. Our reactions to hearing this monstrous cacophony were different in each case. Tanya broke down as she lay in a corner and sobbed uncontrollably, while Gideon stood and listened in grim silence, as clearly he'd been through this hellish situation many times before. As for me, my mind was on the edge of madness, and I wanted to rip my ears off so that I didn't have to listen to Max's suffering. I kept racking my brain, trying to think of a way out and demanding answers from Gideon, but he didn't provide the answers I needed, as the veteran prisoner seemed resigned to his fate. "We can fight them. Surely we can," I shouted. Gideon shook his head in the negative.
You are naked, unarmed, and have a shock collar attached to your neck. What's more, we are on board their spaceship, surrounded by dozens of armed guards and torturers. Resistance is entirely futile. Believe me, many have tried, and all have failed.
"Well, can't we reason with them then?" I asked desperately. "You're able to communicate with these aliens. Can't we make a deal?" Gideon scoffed at the very suggestion.
Reason with them? Our captors regard us as no better than insects. They would no sooner negotiate with us than we would with a common housefly.
Well, there must be something we can do, I cried out angrily, raising my voice to be heard over Max's screams. We can't just stay here and wait for death.
Don't you think I would have done something already?
Gideon shouted, as for the first time he lost his temper.
Don't you realize I've considered every possible action?
Shut up!
Screamed Tanya as she raised her tear-covered face from her hands.
Shut up, both of you! This isn't helping. Jesus Christ, a man is dying in the next room. Show him some goddamn respect.
The woman's angry words of rebuke ended our debate, and soon after, Max's tortured cries ended, replaced by a horrifying death rattle as he finally left the mortal coil. I shuddered upon hearing that awful sound. I felt some relief that Max's suffering had ended, but also fear, because I knew one of us would be next. Sure enough, it wasn't long before the invisible door in the wall reopened, and the 7-foot-tall reptilian guard marched in, its foot claws clicking in excitement as its predatory eyes scanned the cell's interior in search of its next victim. I stood in defiance, clenching my fists as I faced the beast. I knew any physical resistance would be useless, but still wanted to go down fighting. But the alien's cold eyes ignored me, instead focusing on Tanya and lifting its weapon as it advanced upon her. I experienced a moment of foolhardy bravery then, as I charged toward the guard, screaming, No, don't take her, take me instead. The alien's reaction was instantaneous as it struck me with a pike. A shooting pain reverberated through my skull as I collapsed to the ground. With me out of the way, the alien guard continued its advance upon Tanya, who had taken cover in the far corner of the cell. It seemed inevitable that the beast would take her, but then all hell broke loose. There was an almighty explosion, and the whole spaceship shook, throwing us all across the cell like helpless ragdolls. This included the alien guard, who was flung heavily against the wall, its head cracking as it made impact. The alien didn't get back up. I didn't know whether it was dead or unconscious, but either way, we were happy for our unexpected salvation. In that moment, we all turned to the porthole, astonished to see a second craft soaring through space. A silver, needle-shaped ship, which was firing as it sped toward us, shooting missiles through the vacuum. There were more explosions, as the prison ship we were on board shook under the force of multiple impacts. Who the hell is that? I shouted, looking to Gideon for answers. For once, the veteran hostage looked as surprised and baffled as we did.
I've no idea. I've never seen a ship like it before.
He answered honestly. Tanya brought us both back to reality, shouting,
Come on, damn it! We need to get out of here!
She pointed over the incapacitated body of the alien guard and towards the still open doorway, offering us an escape from the cell. Tanya led the way, and I followed. Gideon paused only briefly, taking one look around the hellish prison before leaving it behind. We exited, and found ourselves navigating a maze of dark corridors as explosions continued to rock the alien ship. Our collars thankfully did not transmit a shock, for which we were all grateful. I can only assume the explosions had disrupted their signal, or the beings in charge of shocking us were preoccupied. Gideon soon pushed ahead, as it seemed he knew the way. He led us to a second room, typing in a code to open the door. What we found inside was a hellish scene beyond my worst nightmare. It seemed this was the aliens' torture room, stinking of death, blood, and disinfectant. I saw racks of both primitive blades and high-tech surgical devices that I assumed were designed for the sole purpose of inflicting physical pain. And as we progressed through the hideous room, we saw what remained of poor Max, his body secured to a medical gurney, with his wrists and ankles bound and his chest cut open to reveal his rib cage and internal organs, while his face was frozen in a grim death mask. A silent but permanent scream on his lips as a chilling reminder of his agonizing final moments. Jesus, I swore as I looked down upon his mutilated corpse.
Holy shit! What the hell?
Tanya suddenly exclaimed, her voice once again filled with shock and disgust. I looked up to the far wall of the room and bore witness to sheer horror. There, mounted in a macabre display, were the severed heads of the aliens' many victims. Most were human, but there were other species too, exotic and unfamiliar to my eyes. One looked like some kind of aquatic creature, complete with gills and scales, while another appeared similar to a wolf, except it had 6 eyes. In all, there were about a dozen mounted heads up on the wall, but this wasn't even the worst thing about the sadistic exhibit. What chilled both Tanya and I to our very core was the fact that the severed heads were still alive. I don't know how they did it, or what kind of twisted bad science they used, but each head was connected by tubes to some sort of electronic digital device that seemed to be monitoring their vital signs. Every head seemed to be trapped in their own hellish nightmare without end. Some stared at us with bloodshot eyes filled with madness, while others maniacally opened and closed their mouths in an attempt to scream, except no sound was emitted since presumably they no longer had vocal cords. And a few of the heads had been subjected to even worse torment, their eyes removed and their mouths sewn shut, although they could still sniff the air and reacted to sounds, the result being the most grotesque and sickening sight I'd ever witnessed.
Yes. Apologies.
Gideon added in a meek voice.
I should have warned you about their hunting trophies. They use their technology to keep the brains alive, allowing these select victims to continue to experience pain and fear. Sadly, most of these poor souls have long since lost their minds.
I shook my head, astonished at the almost flippant manner in which Gideon described these atrocities. I realized, however, that he must have lived through hell, suffering untold horrors at the hands of our sadistic alien captors. I couldn't imagine what he'd had to do just to survive in this ship of nightmares. Whilst we stared in horror at the living heads, Gideon went to work, tapping into a control panel to reveal bizarre symbols that I guessed recorded text in the alien languages, and images which appeared to show the ship's interior. He frowned as he tapped on the screen, obviously frustrated by what he was seeing.
I know there are escape pods on this ship. I've heard them talk of emergency evacuation procedures.
He pointed to the map of the ship, drawing our attention to an area at the rear of the cigar-shaped vessel.
They should be located here, but I don't know how we get to them. And, even if we do, I have no idea how to operate the pods, let alone navigate one back to Earth.
Tanya and I shared a look of despair, realizing that we'd got this far only to face another obstacle. But Gideon was a beaten man, resigned to failure and defeat. He never thought we'd get this far, and I knew we couldn't give up now. Where there's a will, there's a way. As we were considering our next move, fate once again intervened, as suddenly the room's door exploded and something entered through the smoke and fire. We prepared for the worst, but what confronted us was something new. A hovering, drone-like robot with 2 mechanical arms extending, both adorned with high-tech weaponry. It also had a camera-type device attached to its main body, a pitch-black circle silently observing us like it was analyzing our physical forms, or perhaps scanning our brainwaves. I looked to Gideon for an explanation, only to discover a look of bafflement on his face. Clearly, he had no idea what this entity was, or whether it meant us harm. A tension-filled moment passed as the hovering robot continued to survey us, before suddenly, a green light flashed on its visible display, and to our astonishment, the robot spoke to us in almost word-perfect English.
Greetings, citizens of Earth. Please do not be alarmed. I am Unit 2317, an autonomous, artificial intelligence combat drone attached to SS Righteous Fury, a Confederation warship tasked with hunting down and neutralizing pirate vessels operating in breach of galactic law. You are all victims of a criminal conspiracy undertaken by a rogue faction engaged in illegal hunting operations. Our primary mission is to eliminate the rogue hunters, but we are also tasked with rescuing any survivors and, where possible, returning them to their home worlds. I shall now release you from your restraints.
In an instant, all of our shock collars disconnected and fell from our necks, presumably deactivated by some kind of electronic countermeasure. We all felt a great relief at being freed, although we were still a long way from home.
Please follow me, and I shall escort you to a safe zone,
said the AI drone. The 3 of us looked at one another in confusion. I certainly didn't feel comfortable putting my trust in a killer robot from another planet, but reckoned Unit 2317 was a better bet than our reptilian torturers. We exited through the demolished door and fled into the maze of corridors, following the hovering drone as it led the way. Meanwhile, the chaos of battle was all around us as the alien ship was assaulted by Confederation forces. We just turned a corner when we were confronted by a reptilian foot soldier armed with some kind of high-tech rifle. It snarled before aiming, raising its gun and preparing to fire, but the machine reacted faster as it rapidly fired a series of dart-like projections that ripped the alien's body to shreds. We walked over its body and continued our escape, observing scenes of violence as the other killer drones engaged reptilian aliens in mortal combat. The fighting was fierce, but it seemed clear that the AI drones were winning, as our alien captors were being gradually wiped out and their torture ship overrun. Finally, we reached what I guessed was the rear of the spaceship, where we saw a row of circular doors with strange symbols written above them, and control panels on the metal walls beside them.
The escape pods! We've made it!
Gideon exclaimed, his eyes lighting up with hope for the first time since I'd met him. Our robotic savior extended a metal arm and began pushing buttons on the first control panel.
Destination Earth. Location the North American continent. Your pod shall depart in 2 of your minutes.
A moment later, the door slid open, revealing the tight but inviting pod within.
Thank God!
Tanya proclaimed joyfully.
Please proceed inside.
The robot instructed. Tanya jumped in without hesitation, and I went to follow, pausing only briefly to look back at the third member of our party. To my astonishment, I saw Gideon was standing back from the pod's doorway. "What are you doing?" I asked in dismay.
I'm sorry, my friends. I cannot come with you. It is too late for me. You understand? The things I've seen. What I've had to do to survive. I cannot return after all this. There must be a price.
There were tears in his old eyes, and I could tell his soul was aching. I struggled to find the words to persuade him, but there was no time. Suddenly, a trio of reptilian warriors charged down the corridor toward us, firing wildly as they came. Gideon screamed, physically shoving me into the pod and slamming his palm on the controls to close the door. I was sealed inside before I knew what was happening, watching helplessly through the porthole window as Gideon fled and 2317 laid down covering fire, engaging the attackers in deadly combat. The battle was intense, but brief, as the robotic drone eventually succumbed to superior gunfire, exploding in a ball of flames around us. The aliens advanced upon our pods with guns at the ready, and for a second, I feared all was lost. But then the counter reached zero, and our pod launched, a huge blast of energy propelling us into space at tremendous speeds. I held on tight and continued to look through the porthole, seeing the reptilian vessel grow smaller and smaller in the distance. I observed numerous small objects eject from the ship, which must have been more of the AI drones escaping from the doomed craft. And then, a moment later, the torturous ship exploded from the inside out, its form torn apart by white flames as the nightmare was ended. I watched the debris spreading through space and shed a tear for Gideon, believing we would never have escaped that death trap without the knowledge he imparted to us. Tanya, on the other hand, focused on the view ahead of us as our pod rapidly approached the Earth's surface.
Look, we're going home.
She exclaimed.
We're going to make it after all.
She smiled sweetly at me, and for a moment I shared her glee. But soon we experienced the trauma of re-entry into the atmosphere, our small pod burning up as the ground rapidly approached. I felt sure we would smash into the surface in a fiery crescendo, but at the last moment, the pod engaged reverse thrusters, reducing our speed and allowing us to land relatively gently on the ground, although not without a bump. A moment later, the doors of the pod automatically swung open, and we were able to breathe fresh air for the first time. And boy, it was amazing. Cautiously, Tanya and I exited the alien vessel, finding ourselves in the middle of a flat cornfield, seemingly without another soul in sight. I surveyed the scene, part of me still not believing we were truly free.
What now?
Tanya asked as she stepped to my side, her still naked skin shining under the morning sun. We soon got our answer, with the heavy din of rotor blades, as suddenly
Wonder
a
what
black
he
helicopter
says.
appeared on the horizon, rapidly approaching until it was practically hovering over our heads. We looked up in baffled confusion before seeing movement on the road at the edge of the cornfield, as a fleet of dark SUVs sped into place, and a small army of federal agents jumped out, all aiming guns at Tanya and I as they ordered us to get down on the ground. So, the feds arrested us both, bringing us into custody while they took possession of the alien escape pod, the only tangible evidence of the incident. We were held for days and questioned separately, ordered to recount the details of our abduction and captivity. I don't know why they released us. I guess we hadn't committed any crimes, but we were warned not to speak about what we'd been through, or we'd face severe consequences. Obviously, I have now decided to disregard that warning and tell my story publicly for the first time. Why have I made this decision? I suspect my days are numbered. You see, I got word recently that Tanya had died suddenly from an overdose. She had a history of substance abuse, so it's possible she started using again to cope with her PTSD after the abduction.
Inquisitor.
But I'm not so sure I believe that. I wonder if Tanya was deliberately silenced by some shadowy government agency that wants to cover up the truth. If this is the case, they will surely come for me next.
You won't see an
Clearly, our government knows a lot more about these abductions than they wish to share with the public. However, I doubt they can keep this secret for much longer. Not if a galactic civil war is raging in our own solar system. In any event, such is the huge gap in technology, I doubt there will be much we can do to alter the outcome of this conflict. War is coming to us, and we better pray the good guys win, because I've seen the evil out in the universe, and believe me, it is terrifying.
3 big rumblers. And the aftershocks are nothing to sneeze at. My feet miss solid ground. So you haven't seen any dogs spawn up here? I sharpened my arrows just in case, but they never showed. I'm okay with that.
What if another earthquake seals us in?
If that happens, I'll dig you out myself. The lift's ready for you.
My story begins several years ago.
Try not to shift around, and keep back from the edge. It's a long way down.
So, the deep roads. Do you think there'll be tight spaces? Long hallways with low ceilings?
Possibly. Why?
Just hoping my horns fit.
Dwarves cannot dream, yet they devise the most fascinating inventions.
Not all ideas come from the Fade.
True, but these designs must be inspired by something.
Palms calloused, clutching, clawing when the dust... The stones were...
Horut, Magar, Novrik, your names will not be forgotten.
You must be Shaper Volta.
A trust Valar, Inquisitor. The Shaper it welcomes you to the deep roads.
Oh, man, hurts. Angel, you're on the wrong side. Angel! I have to set a box on your head. Are you serious? You can't be on this side. I need to find my pills. I can't just take the regular ones. I gotta take the migraine pills. Where are they?
you're hiding from something.
As a citizen of Orzammar, even a glimpse of your sky could cost me my position and render me castless.
What does a Shaper do exactly?
We chronicle the life and times of our people.
You're historians.
Also scholars and genealogists. Shapers preserve knowledge in the memories, an archive in Orzammar. We record memories in Lyrium to ensure they never fade. We must be meticulous in every detail.
My ambassador briefed me, but now I hear there are still more quakes.
Each new tremor opens another fissure in the deep roads. Our situation has worsened since we contacted Skyhold. The quakes collapsed this mine and shattered a seal, keeping the Darkspawn at bay. The Legion of the Dead hasn't been able to mend the broken seal, and we can't afford to lose any more lyrium.
Dead is asleep.
Orzammar deals with Darkspawn all the time. Why request the Inquisition's help?
The Legion isn't prepared for this level of disaster, and the Grey Wardens haven't answered our calls for aid. Any threat to the flow of lyrium requires immediate response. The Inquisition is the only force we can rely upon.
Of course the Grey Wardens have not answered.
What will happen if we lose more lyrium mines?
The surface needs lyrium for all sorts of magic. The Inquisition more than most, I understand. And Orzammar's economy relies on the lyrium trade. Without it, there will be chaos above and below.
I trust this Legion of the Dead isn't actually deceased yet.
Not yet. But they are ready to die. Apologies for pushing you. I fear the damage that tremor caused. Follow me to the Legion camp.
Alright, Cole's looking like you need some points. Well, only one. It's better than I thought. Are you serious? I don't have stealth? Cool, you're always in stealth. You better have stealth. Okay. Sure.
Keep your eyes open. These roads are dangerous.
Form up!
It's not focused on us! Now's the time to attack!
Oh, it's almost done. Okay. Yes, it's listed as 19 now. Because I'm on at 19.
No! While it's distracted!
You told me that one is dead. It's dying quite well without telling me that at all.
You have my gratitude.
Just returning the favor.
If the ogre reached this point, the Legion must be overwhelmed. Let us hurry.
I don't even know what kind of daggers he has. Probably most likely Bleeder of Souls and whatever.
I will never get used to the stench of Darkspawn. They corrupt everything, even the air. the broken seal ahead. It is worse than I thought.
Demon Slate, Lightning. Silencer can't be worn yet. I'm sorry, that's 321. Wow. I don't know. This doesn't have a lot much. What level is this? Jeez. Blast. He needs a critical chance maybe, but that's not that much. Belt.
Get those charges to the tunnels! Someone prime the sonic fuses!
We can't lose this position! Hurry!
Can't set the charges with those bastards breathing down our necks!
Clear out the dark spawn!
That's got them on their heels! Keep it up!
Anyone left? Ow, you're hurting my hair. Am I done? You're hurting my hair. Puppy, you're not supposed to be onto my head.
Now, set the charges!
Dark spawn teeth. Speaking of which, I haven't turned in any materials in who knows how long. Oh, shoot, shoot, shoot. Puppy. This isn't timed, is it? After do. Oh, wait. I need to pick up my loot. better wait for me to get down there. Watch me get blown up. Haha. If I want my loot, I'll get blown up.
Inquisitor, meet Lieutenant Wren, a veteran of the 5th Flight and one of the Legion's finest commanders.
Someone paid her to say that. Appreciate the help, Inquisitor. Collapsing that seal bought us time. Blighters had the run of these tunnels for days. Now they have a roadblock.
How many deep roads are there? How deep do they go?
They'll take you from one side of Thetis to the other, if you have a death wish.
The roads once connected dwarven cities that were hundreds of miles apart. Then came the Darkspawn. Ren and I have been exploring this region, reclaiming it. The work is slow.
Mark the map, find an army. Mark the map, fall in a hole. And so on.
I get the impression you two have known each other a while.
Yeah. The Shaper had sent her to dig up some relics. Asked me to keep her out of trouble. That was 3 years ago.
You can quit anytime.
Not when we still have things to fight about.
For such a small group, your people have held up well.
The Quakes took a lot of us. Reinforcements will be slow to arrive.
Take cover!
Rise.
You heard that, yes? The rhythm in the tremors? It's clearer, stronger, more insistent.
I hear it. Doesn't prove a thing.
These quakes are not a natural disaster. They're deliberate. There's an intelligence behind them.
How could an earthquake be caused deliberately?
We get plenty of natural tremors down here. These are different. She thinks she knows why.
I found an ancient text during an expedition with Ren last year. At the time, it was just a curiosity. And the text describes giant creatures called Titans living deep underground. They sing in the stone, shaping it. When these quakes began, I believe we heard that rhythm. I believe a Titan is causing all this destruction.
All I heard was an earthquake. How is it you and Ren hear a rhythm?
Our people have a strong connection to the stone. We feel it in a way topsiders cannot.
Shapers have great stone sense. Vaulta's better than most. She never gets lost.
I've never heard of Titans before. What else can you tell me about them?
The text I found predated the First Blight. Its pages had mostly rotted away. And there's no mention of the Titans in Orzamar's memories.
Which tells you something.
You speak of the stone like it's more than walls.
The stone is eternal. She was here before us, and remains after we die.
But the stone isn't your god.
We don't worship her, but we do respect and honor her.
The stone makes us strong, and we return that strength to her when we die. It's difficult to express in words.
Mysterious songs often lure people to their deaths, or to an archdemon.
This rhythm isn't a song, exactly. It sounds like air flowing through lungs.
Air that can collapse a whole mine.
A mystery worth investigating.
In my experience, no explanation is too strange to consider.
For all we know, that text you found was a bedtime story. We can't be sure until we find the source.
The rhythm I sense in the quakes is emanating from somewhere far below. The stone will lead us there.
And if it comes to a fight, that'll be our job. There's a lift at the side passage nearby. Ready when you are.
Oh, come on, busy. Oh, no. Wait, I get a chest of, whoa, that's a lot of influence. My dragon bone here. Hello? Hello? Did you just, there we go. Dragon bone times 30. Okay. This other stupid thing that nobody of me will ever wear because it's dwarf and it's warrior and it will never be worn by anybody. Don't even know what it looks like.
So it's true. The king involved a servicer.
The Inquisition is on everyone's lips. Even the Assembly has taken an interest. In his younger years, King Harrowmont would have greeted you personally, but he is too old now for such a journey.
How does one become a shaper of memories?
I was born with a keen stone sense. It caught the Shaper's attention, but my passion for history earned me the title. It was never really a choice.
You seem quite excited by the idea that these titans may exist.
My connection to the stone allows me to hear it, but I can only listen. Titans can sing through the stone. It is extraordinary. We call ourselves children of the stone. What does that make the titans?
What's life like in Orzammar?
I haven't lived in Orzammar for 3 years, but I receive updates. Is there anything in particular you'd like to know?
A dwarf's caste seems to dictate their entire life in Orzammar.
I could bore you for hours about our society's castes and the tensions that go along with them. Simply put, citizens of Orzammar are born into a caste, and that is their lot in life. A member of the Smith caste can never join the warrior caste, and vice versa. Everything is predetermined.
Do you miss living there?
I do sometimes. Particularly the easy access to a warm bath and clean clothes. But the importance of my work outweighs the comforts of the city.
How's the political climate in Orzammar?
There have been riots due to food shortages, but they will pass, I hope. I've no doubt some Deshers will try to use the situation for their own gain. But the king has a good hold over the Assembly.
What are Deshers?
Members of the Assembly, all noble born. Through the Assembly, they govern Orzammar. The king presides over them.
A dwarf's caste seems to dictate their entire life in Orzammar.
I could bore you for hours about our society's castes and the tensions that go along with them. Simply put, citizens of Orzammar are born into a caste, and that is their lot in life. A member of the Smith caste can never join the warrior caste, and vice versa. Everything is predetermined.
There's no way for someone to change castes.
It is possible for a member of the lower caste to marry above their station, but only their children's caste will improve. Similarly, when dwarves are made casteless, so are their descendants.
A dwarf's caste seems to dictate their entire life in Orzammar.
I could bore you for hours about our society's castes and the tensions that go along with them. Simply put, citizens of Orzammar are born into a caste, and that is their lot in life. A member of the Smith caste can never join the warrior caste, and vice versa. Everything is predetermined. Of course. My pleasure, Inquisitor.
We'll speak another...
So it's true. The king involved a servicer.
We've lost so many.
I've been meaning to ask, Inquisitor. Skyhold, how does it... well... hold in the sky? How do you keep it from floating away?
It's built into a mountain.
Held by the stone, then.
Shaper Volta said you're a veteran of the Blight.
I was a wet-nosed recruit.
But you survived.
Swing your axe long enough. You're bound to hit something.
You must have racked up a few stories.
Maybe when this is all over, I'll have the time and ale to tell them.
Most of Ren's stories end with decapitation.
I'm an efficient guy.
I'd like to know more about the Legion of the Dead.
The Legion's pretty straightforward. We keep the Darkspawn out of Orzammar, and we're sodding good at it. Becoming a Legionnaire is a lifelong oath, one that can't be broken. We celebrate our own funerals before coming to the Deep Roads. As far as our families in Orzammar are concerned, we're already dead. Hence the name.
That's quite the commitment.
It isn't a glamorous life. Every Legionnaire has their own reasons for joining. From the common criminal to the Deep Lord with illusions of grandeur. All are accepted.
What about you? Why did you join?
I had a responsibility.
A historian and a soldier. That's an unlikely friendship.
What makes you think we're friends?
The bickering.
Fair enough. Valta's got the stones of a silent sister. Doesn't mean I won't give her a hard time.
Thanks for your time.
Where is it? Wait. Never mind, don't have the crafting until I do the thing. And until Colin's done with his thing, whatever's going on for how long. Anyway, not that I was really planning to. I just wanted dragon bone. But I don't have a crafting table. I'll have to come back. I need to go get the Dragon's Guild because I'm ahead of the dragons right now. I'm level 19, the next dragon is 17. And then I need to go to the Storm Coast. Oh yes. I need to go to the Storm Coast with Iron Bull first. Get his hat. What do you want to give me? They touched blood. Oh. I named it a bear bow. Actually, why did I name it? Anyway, put my unhit king guard in there. What is my armor? Oh, apparently not containing the guard right now. Mm-hmm. And what else? So, don't have any higher Ethereum. Oh, I have fire. Put fire in it, I guess. That's my. Wait a minute. Oh, shit. Oh, shoot. What did I do? Okay, I don't. Master Fire. Master. Crafting is 20. Hmm. What did I do with the Master Corrupting? Or is that what I just. Oh, did I put it in both? Must have. Master Corrupting. Okay, whatever.
A nice simple blade. Can't...
Oh, what a mess. Just. I didn't even collect my plants, did I? I just. How much longer is Cullen busy? No. Baby doggy. You're over here. This one. 22 minutes. We track down Zevran. Feeding the crows. What else do you gotta do, Liliana? What is this? So, there we go, Liliana.
Let's see what we have.
Going to... Where is this dragon to hunt? To pass through all the way around here? It doesn't have a marker yet, but that's... Why isn't a marker for Elgernon's Bastion? I'm confused. I have to go somewhere. Well, anyway, it's kind of a long way to get to that. Okay, Angel's not even up here yet. Gonna have to move when Angel gets here. Good grief! Getting to this dragon is a serious pain in the butt. There's another one. place right where they have the... Oh, there might be multiple places, but I know it's... Anyway. Where they have the picture of the scaled one. Like... This is Algernon's Bastion area. Why doesn't it give me a marker for it?
Keep your distance, strangers.
It gives me a marker when it's... when I do the quest. Another box. This is... Okay. Secret South Singer. Oh. Anyway, I should be saving some time here. Wait, I don't have the thing to throw the ashes up here? I only have the marker for the lyrium. Oh. Haven't noticed me yet, dragon? Why am I not close enough to throw blades? Stupid frickin' game. Oh, right when I'm fighting a dragon, Angel decides to whine that it's time to come back to sit on my lap. Well, you've got to jump. I can't. Stop it, puppy. You're dead. Stop flying away. Yeah. Not on my head, no. Oh my gosh, stop that. Sit down properly, good grief. Sit down. Sit down. Okay, Sarah was going to be doing the shadow strike.
Solus, how do you say excuse me in Elven or whatever?
For you, it would be Ara Seranamar. It is coincidence that your name is within. The base form is common.
Thanks. Now when I... Say it. You'll know it's on purpose.
better take a closer look.
Zelda, get off my head! Come back down here! Baby! Come on, down here. See, I'm good.
Inquisitor.
Oh, oh, what? Okay. Oh, lovely. Seriously, let me up the frickin' hill. Let me go. It's a jar of ashes right there. Wonderful. Urn. Has to be. Last wish is scatter Robert's ashes. My Robert died last week, victim to men who wore the colors of our beloved Empress. His remains were burned as our chantry bids, and his last wish was to have his ashes scattered on the plateau that overlooks the Great Wood. But brigands and traitors have taken these woods, and I cannot fulfill his wish. This is as far as I go. Dang it, I need to get... Oh, stop this. Stop this. I got other places to be. Stone Coast. Now, yes, that dragon is far ways to go to get to the dragon. Definitely a far ways to go. Oh, yes. Rainbow's Quest. Which is here. Zelda, again, off of my head. Zelda, down. Get down here. There, good puppy. I love you. Stop sitting on my head. Yeah, come on, was done. I have to check off the table stuff in the deep roads. Oh, okay, you lay down. What do I still need anyway? Don't know history. Guess I can check this out. Other people seem impressed by it. Open up this thing here. Hold on, I need to get rid of my crap. Junk. Is this what I... Didn't I throw one Templar greatsword into, or I used one? I used one. Okay, I don't need that. These are not necessary now. I just need... Come on. Gee. And you have your home. Okay. Okay, these are just junk. Oh, you need better armor now. Okay. Don't have a. Whoa, that was very low. You have a what? Whoa, definitely need better. Look at your weapon. Wow. Okay. Color block wall right away because you. Wait, what? Okay then. Wait, where's the leather go?
All right. Our Kunari contact should be here to meet us.
He is. Good to see you again, Hisrad.
Gat! Last I heard, you were still in Saharan.
They finally decided I'd calmed down enough to go back into the world.
Boss, this is Gat. We work together in Saharan.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Inquisitor. Hisrad's reports say you're doing good work.
Iron Bull's name is Hisrad.
Under the Qun, we use titles, not names.
My title was Hisrad, because I was assigned to secret work. You can translate it as Keeper of Illusions, or...
Liar. It means liar.
Well, you don't have to say it like that.
I look forward to working together.
Hopefully this will help both our peoples. Tevinter is dangerous enough without the influence of this Venatori cult. If this new form of lyrium helps them seize power in Tevinter, the war with Kunandar could get worse.
With this stuff, the Vince could make their slaves into an army of magical freaks. We could lose Sahara and see a giant Tevinter army come marching back down here.
The Ben Hasrath agree. That's why we're here. Our dreadnought is safely out of view and out of range of any Venatori mages on shore. We'll need to eliminate the Venatori, then signal the dreadnought so it can come in and take out the smuggler ship.
What do you think, Bull?
Don't know. I've never liked covering a dreadnought run. Too many ways for crap to go wrong. If our scouts underestimate enemy numbers, we're dead. If we can't lock down the Venatori mages, the ship is dead. It's risky.
Riskier than letting Red Lyrium into Minrathos?
If it's dangerous for the dreadnought close to shore, why not attack when the smugglers reach open water?
Any decent smuggling ship can outrun a dreadnought on open water. We need to catch them close to shore.
I could have crushed any Venatori resistance with the Inquisition's main forces. Why not use them?
Because then the Venatori would have seen you coming and run. They'd schedule a new shipment for later, and our spies might not know when or where. This is risky, yes, but it's our best chance to destroy the shipping operation permanently.
There might be Venatori mages on the ship as well, if the dreadnought can't handle them.
It's unlikely there'll be more than 2 or 3 mages on the ship, and they'll be dead by the 3rd shot. On land, though, a half-dozen Venatori attacking the dreadnought from cover could do some serious damage.
Let's go hold up our end of this bargain, then.
My agent suggested 2 possible locations the Venatori may be camped to guard the shore. There, and there. We'll need to split up and hit both at once.
I'll come with you, boss. Krim can lead the charges. Let me fill him in. Come by when you're ready to move.
Come by when you're ready. It means, oh yeah, it means I had supposed to talk to him.
Just waiting on you and Hisrad, or Iron Bull, I guess.
How did an elf end up working for the Kunari out here?
The Ben Hasrath usually pick elves or humans to work outside of Kunandar. We're a little harder to spot. I've worked in Orlais and Navarra, but only for a few years now.
What did you do before that?
When I was old enough, I fought Tevinter forces in Saharan. I was too angry to do much else. It took me a long time to accept the Qun, to get past justice to purpose. Some days are still difficult.
It sounds like following the Qun hasn't always been easy.
I had a temper. Bull's nickname for me, Gat, comes from Gatlock, the explosive power in Qunari cannons. I was so angry when I was first freed. I wanted revenge. I wanted to find my family, who was still enslaved in Minrathos. I thought about leaving when the Qun didn't tell me what I wanted to hear, but I didn't.
Why not?
The Qunari were always ready to listen, to teach. They cared for me as much as one of their own. And if I leave, the parts of the Qun that I don't like are never going to change.
No one's actually detailed how an alliance with the Qunari will help the Inquisition.
The answer to that is above my rank. But the Qunari don't really bargain. They don't know how. I doubt you want Qunari troops stomping around your stronghold, and you're too far away for supplies to be useful. You get more use out of our ships, I imagine. and the agents we've got spread across Thedas. We know a lot more than what Bull sees in those reports he's been forwarding to your spy master.
Is Bull going to get in trouble for passing those reports on?
The Ben Hasrath aren't pleased with how forthcoming Bull has been, but he was one of their best agents. He kept the streets clean in Saharon longer than anyone before him or after. He fought until it nearly killed him. The Ben Hasrath trust him enough to accept how he joined the Inquisition, even if they don't like it. Besides, they hate to discard a tool that might still have some use left in it. That's why I have a job.
You knew Iron Bull back when he fought in Saharon?
Yes, he led the group that freed me. I was a Magister's slave, and when the Magister went to Saharon, he brought me along. For company. Iron Bull and his men attacked my master's ship and killed him, as well as his soldiers. Bull set me free.
And you decided to start following the Kyun after that?
What do you think? I just watched a giant horned warrior kill the Magister who hurt me.
He never told me about this.
One of the few things he hasn't shared with you, I gather. Sure, Bull. Share the secret Ben Hasrath reports, but keep that bit where you save the elf boy to yourself.
Do you have a minute to talk about the Kyun?
I'm a spy, Inquisitor, not a teacher. I'm not interested in converting anyone or debating the philosophy. But I suppose it would make for an interesting report to hear the Inquisitor's opinion of the Kyun.
To be honest, I don't really understand enough of the Kyun to judge it.
I think you have to be raised under the Kyun for it ever to make sense. The people who join as adults either end up unhappy or, well, for many, it's just a kind of form of slavery. I like the simplicity. I like knowing my place and knowing that it's the right place. Other parts I've struggled with myself.
I'll let you know when you're ready.
I await.
Once they're down, send up your signal. That'll let the Dreadnought know it's safe to come in.
Understood, Chief.
Remember, you're gonna want a volley to start, but don't get suckered into fighting at range.
Pants?
They're good mages.
It's all right. We've got a mage of our
Wait,
own.
what?
I'm not a mage.
Get in close and take their enchanter down before he takes over the battlefield.
He'll be dead before he knows it.
Just
Why is Bull not up
pay
blue?
attention, all right? The Vince want this red lyrium shipment bad.
Yes, I know. Thanks, Mother.
Kunari don't have.
Wait, what? He doesn't have those
We'll be fine, Chief.
flaps on his pants either.
Horns up!
Horns up!
Ready whenever you are, boss.
Yeah, that's not how I dressed him. Check out this Dalish. Get stuck somewhere. That is not what he's wearing for me.
Right. Chargers! Hit them hard and hit them fast. When this is over...
He doesn't have anything on his arms either.
You got it, Chief. Charges! Double time! Let's move!
You gave your chargers the easier target.
You think?
Lower and farther from the smuggler's ship, it's much less likely to be heavily defended.
Suppose we'll do the heavy lifting then. Just like old times.
Be careful. My agent said to expect opposition ahead of the main camp.
We've all done this a few times, Gat.
You've been living outside the Kyun for years now, Iron Bull. Just wanted to make sure your reflexes hadn't gotten as soft as the rest of you.
Ouch.
That thing might long drop.
You're carrying a staff. Are you from a Chantry circle?
No, and I would prefer not to discuss it.
Have I done something to offend you?
You joined the Kyun?
After they rescued me from slavery.
And put you into something worse? A slave may always struggle for freedom.
But you among the Qun have been taught not to think.
Solus, not the time.
Get ready. We're close.
Let's see what I got. Well, I did that wrong. Now I guess I'll do a bunch of these. Done? I guess not. One is covered with lightning and running away. That's what I wanted. Strength and Sunder. Anyway, 30 armor level. His own hat. Alright, that's...
We're clear, Gat.
Right. Signaling the dreadnought.
Chargers already sent theirs up. See them down there?
I knew you gave them the easier job.
There's the dreadnought. That brings back memories.
Nice one.
Crap.
They've still got time to fall back if you signal them now.
Yeah.
Your men need to hold that position, Bull.
They do that. They're dead.
And if they don't, the Venatori retake it and the dreadnought is dead. You'd be throwing away an alliance between the Inquisition and the Canary. You'd be declaring yourself Talvashoth. With all you've given the Inquisition, half the Ben Hasra think you've betrayed us already. I stood up for you, Hisrad. I told them you would never become Talvashoth.
They're my men.
I know, but you need to do what's right, Hisrad. For this alliance, and for the Qun.
Call the retreat.
Don't!
They're falling back.
All these years, Hisrad, and you throw away all that you are. For what? For this? For them?
We can make this up to your people.
No, you can't.
No way they'll get out of range. Won't be long now.
Bo, when the dreadnought sinks...
Sinks? Canary dreadnoughts don't sink. Come on. Let's get back to my boys.
Oh, well, this is transporting me back, yeah, isn't it? Okay, whatever.
Hey, boss.
Inquisitor, it is my duty to inform you that there will be no alliance between our peoples. Nor will you be receiving any more Ben Hasrath reports from your Talvishoth ally.
You under orders to kill me, Gat?
No. The Ben Hasrath have already lost one good man. They'd rather not lose two.
So much for that.
The loss of the Ben Hasrath information will hurt. Can we smoke out some of your old contacts?
They'll pool their people soon enough, but we might be able to identify the agents who replaced them. You're late.
Sorry, Chief. Still sore from fighting off all those vents. Good to see you, Inquisitor.
How did the Chargers come out of the fight?
Just fine. Thanks to you and the Chief, we had plenty of time to fall back. Chief's even breaking open a cask of chasing sackmead for the Chargers tonight.
Damn it, Krem. That's the kind of thing you don't have to mention to the Inquisitor.
Sorry, Chief.
Ah, forget it. You're doing fine.
Is there anything you need?
So, you're a candidate for Divine now?
So I am informed.
Is that something you actually want?
Why should what I want matter?
Why shouldn't it matter? Don't you have the right to be happy?
It is very simple. The Chantry needs to survive. To do that, it must change. I have never believed in asking another to do what you are unwilling to do yourself. So I look upon this as an opportunity. I owe it to myself and all of Thedas to seek the Sunburst throne.
There are other ways you can change things.
Perhaps. I may not have a choice in the matter if the Chantry clerics pick another.
That's enough for now.
Another time, then.
Controlled space.
Shame the alliance with the Chief's people didn't work out. He hasn't said anything, but he's feeling it.
Can you think of any other tasks suitable for the Chargers?
Nothing jumps out at me. If I come up with any ideas, I'll let you know.
Can we talk?
Certainly. What can I tell you?
Have you had...
There was the time with the spiders. Big old beast taking over some Navaran lady's winter estate, with a full season to lay eggs. Hanging from the chandeliers, scuttling over the tapestries, whipping up the bath. Don't really have a story about it. It's just a lot of spiders.
We'll talk later.
Glad I could bring the news about those Darkspawn, Inquisitor. Must have been a tough fight. Wish I'd seen it. Had a lull after. Shade went to Val Royaux. Off, I don't know. I'll get into Cullen's Reserve yet, though. Not much else doing.
Oh,
Inquisitor.
I ended the quest again. I did it wrong. I have to start paying attention to that. I think I usually just use Liliana all the time. Oh, she's mad about the something.
One for the
Of course.
For Gaspar, Brianna, the Duchess, and Corinthus. Right in the dangle bag.
All right, you're clearly annoyed. What can I do?
You're doing fine. It's the dead piled up in Halam Shirel that's nagging at me. A cook here, a footman there. What's it matter, right, so long as there's a book for the throne? A pretty one, sure. But how many lives are worth one empress's arse? Ugh, that place. Should have just thrown in some bees and slammed the doors.
I don't know. You want to stop a party? I think you go earwigs.
I hate those things, with their little kitschy books. Josephine should add that to her paper threats. You know the real lesson from all this? Never sleep with an Empress. We patched their spat, Briala and the Celine, but without their breakup, none of it would have happened like that.
That was a mistake on their part. It made everything worse.
Wrong way around, Inquisitor. It started worse. Lots of people died before there was a hole in the sky. That's who you're saving. If you get a chance, maybe remind them not to be idiots. Can't wait, what's on?
Are things playing out the way you expected?
About time we turned around on this Cariffy whatever. Make him feel like he's on the wrong end of the dogs for once, yeah?
I'll be back if I need you.
Go on. Can't wait, what's on?
I'll be back if I need you.
Go on.
You wanted to see me?
Bull! I got it!
E posti sala talva shoth.
Yeah, my soul's dust. Yours is scattered all over the ground, though, so... Sorry, boss. I thought I might need backup. Guess I'm not even worth sending professionals for.
You knew the assassins were coming?
Little change in the guard rotation tipped me off.
Why didn't you tell me ahead of time?
You go through years of Ben Hasrith training to hide facial expressions when I wasn't looking. See? Like that. If I'd warned you or the guards, the assassins would have been tipped off.
Are you all right?
Fine. Hurt myself worse than this fooling around in bed.
What if they used poison?
Oh, they definitely used poison. Sarcomec, liquid form. If I hadn't been dosing myself with the antidote, I'd be going crazy and puking my guts up right now. As it is, it stings like shit, but that's about it.
I hoped the Ben Hasrath would let you go.
They did. Sending two guys with blades against me? That's not a hit. That's a formality. Just making it clear that I'm Talva Shoth. Talva fucking Shoth.
You acted like a Talvashoth for years. That didn't change you. Neither does this.
That was just a role. This is my life. As one of those. I've killed hundreds of Talvashoth in Saharan. Bandits, murderers, bastards who turned their back on the Qun. And now I'm one of them.
You're not a Talvashoth. That's a Qunari word, and you don't follow the Qun any longer. You're Iron Bull, mercenary captain for the Inquisition.
I can live with that. Anyway, I'll get this cleaned up and let Red know what happened. Boss, whatever I miss, whatever I regret, this is where I want to be. Whenever you need an ass kicked, the Iron Bull is with you.
And I'm up here.
Yes?
Is there anything I should know?
Sarah brought me a piece of cake. She thought I looked hungry.
Why are you telling me this?
Because it was either an act of kindness or a trap. I was hoping you knew which.
That's all for now.
Should you require anything, I'll be here.
Venan.
I need to know more about Corypheus.
He has lost his army, and he has lost Orlais. That eliminates military or political means to rebuild Tevinter. He will need to demonstrate that no one in this world can stand against his magic. It will not be subtle.
We'll talk later.
Dareth Shirar.
You have remarkably little here on early Tevinter history. All these gifts to the Inquisition, and the best they can do is the Malefica Imperio. Trite propaganda. But if you want 20 volumes on whether Divine Galatea took a shit on Sunday, this is evidently the place to find it.
That's the Dorian I know, critiquing every book in my library.
I wouldn't have to, if you could find some rebellious heretic archivist to join the cause.
Are there rebellious archivists? Other than you, that is.
If Corypheus ever starts burning masterworks of literature, I'm sure a few will pop up. Did I see something by Genitivi here? I could have sworn.
What is this about, Dorian?
When everyone returned, they told us about your tumble into the Abyssal Rift. You went into the Fade. Physically went in. Are you... all right?
It was like walking in a nightmare. But everything was real. I couldn't...
The Fade is an ordeal under normal circumstances. To be the only real thing there, beyond description. That you made it out at all is a miracle. You do realize this feat hasn't been performed in over 1,000 years. Corypheus and his contemporaries entered the Fade and began the Blights. In comparison.
It would have been easier if you'd been with me.
Without question. But I'm rather glad I wasn't.
No sense of adventure? That's surprising.
I've not your talent for survival. And not everyone is as discerning as I. If you can walk in the Fade, others will try to follow. Who knows what secrets Corypheus has revealed? Not all of them will be as lucky as you. What they could unleash. My advice? Keep this quiet. Let them speculate. Too many will see this as a challenge.
That's a good idea.
There are enough idiots in the world who think if they just use enough blood magic, their problems will vanish. It's exactly the sort of thing I want to stop back home. This I don't need. What I do need is a copy of the Liberalum. I'll wager I can find Corypheus' real name. If I can prove he was a grasping ankle-biter with no family to speak of, the luster would come right off. Wish me luck.
Marvelous business, the Winter Palace. Saving the day, reconciling lovers, mediating a civil war. So sugary, it's nauseating. All this dancing, politics, and murder makes me a bit homesick.
That's something you'd like to do more often, then?
Watch as you twist an entire empire around your little finger. Yes, please. Of course, that leaves only Tevinter. And it wouldn't work as well there.
No. Why not?
Our dances are so much more intense. If an evening lacks a murder, we sniff and call it a ball. I hope you tried the ham they were serving, by the way. Tasted of despair. It's fascinating.
I should go.
Naturally. Questions.
I should go.
Naturally.
Here is the request Harry to me. Are there any special instructions? No, I would have stated as much.
Inquisitor. I have been thinking. You remember everything now, yes? The explosion at Haven, the Fade, escaping the breach. In your report,
You said Justinia was with you.
But she's home,
only
baby.
you emerged in the end. Why? Why were you the only survivor?
She knew it was either her or me. And she wanted me to live.
Of course. Of course she did. That's just like her. Her message to me. I failed you too. I'm not sure I understand what that means. Did you say anything else? Anything at all? Please, if you remember.
I'm sorry, Liliana. That was it.
There are no answers in the fate. Only illusions. A warped mirror. Justinia has never failed me. I was her left hand. Now she's dead. I failed her. So it's true. Some look to Cassandra or even me as Justinia's successor. I never thought the idea would gain momentum. Of course, with the other candidates out of the picture...
Is becoming divine something you really want?
When Justinia was alive, I would have laughed at anyone who even suggested that I could be her successor. Things have changed. Still, I don't know. Restoring the Chantry will be like trying to steer a sinking vessel through a storm.
Whoever becomes divine will have my support if she requires it.
And I'm sure whoever becomes divine will absolutely require the Inquisition's backing. The Chantry is faltering, but it still has influence over the people. Who tells the people what's right? Who do they look to in times of peril? A divine with enough support can change the Chantry. And with it, Thedas. But this is a discussion for later. If Corypheus wins, finding a new divine will be the least of our problems. A message from Divine Justinia.
That's a shock. You're right reading it.
Thank you for the concern, Inquisitor. But I am. This message was written months, perhaps even years ago, to be delivered to me if she died. I've heard of such contingency plans. A sudden death often leaves loose ends. I'm to go to Valence, a small village on the waking sea. There is something hidden there.
Do you know what you're looking for?
The Divine was a powerful woman who used her position to obtain all sorts of things. Whatever she hid in Valence would very likely benefit the Inquisition and must be kept from falling into the wrong hands. If I'm lucky, she will have instructions for me.
Why hide things in Valence? What's so special about it?
Justinia was revered mother at the Chantry there for many years before she became the Divine. It is a place that holds great meaning for her.
I'll help in whatever way I can.
Wonderful. I was hoping you would agree to come with me to Valence. One more thing. If what is hidden in Valence is as valuable as I think, we're not going to be the only ones looking for it. I shall meet you at the Chantry in Valence. Try not to delay.
But I got so many dragons to kill. What am I doing now? Let's see. I shouldn't have very much inventory. Oh, I need to jump back to the... Oh. Okay. Let's just... Okay. Need to jump back here. Pull you. cares about Vivian. Long time. Cullen has to do this, and it doesn't even count as time, but he had to be busy. He couldn't be busy in order to do it. And then I can buy Dragon. Wait, really? Huh? I have to be... What the heck? Now? The heck? When do I get to buy Dragon? I'm level 20. Was it 22 or more? When do I buy Dragon? Oh. Let's see here. I have a ferret with me, so I guess I can do this. Oh. Oh, it doesn't even matter who's with me. Jeez. Anyway, arms. What? Why do I not have any? That don't make any sense. Oh yeah, I need to buy some iron and some summerstone. Let's go ahead and do that. Guess. fine iron, whatever. Okay. Wood and fellow mine.
So it's true. The king involved a servant.
Word for you.
What is it?
Could prove useful, sir.
Missing one iron. Well, let's see here. Climb the mountains. Can't even get up there. Uh-oh. I'm stuck with these hanging fish. Gosh. Oh, Angel, I'm stuck on some fish. You're gonna have to wait. No. No. What?
Nothing to report, sir. This might interest you, sir.
What is it?
See for yourself, sir.
What is it? Could prove useful, sir.
Medallions of service.
I've news, sir. What is it? See for yourself, sir. I've news, sir. What is it? This could help us.
Move, everybody. Jeez. No. No. Join Liliana and Florence. Guess I'll do that since I don't need these particular people with me. Lord. Okay.
It's just as I remember it.
didn't tell me you'd been here before.
After the Blight ended, I came here to see Justinia. She was just Dorothea then, a revered mother.
I didn't expect it to be so... deserted. It makes me uneasy.
It's a small village, and it's too early for the chant. I'm sure the sisters are somewhere.
Liliana? Is that you?
Sister Natalie, what are you doing here? I thought you were in Val Rayo.
No. I've been here since Justinia died. This place makes me feel like she's still with us.
Inquisitor, this is Natalie, a trusted friend.
Wait, Inquisitor? You brought the Inquisitor here? My lady, forgive me for not recognizing you earlier.
Why are you
I wish more people would fail to recognize me.
Oh, I see.
Natalie, listen. There is something hidden here. Something Justinia left for me.
Oh, really? What is it?
I don't know, but we'll find it. I'm curious to see what brought us all here. Justinia's letter came with instructions for me. They were a little cryptic. Always remember that faith sprung from a barren branch. That light has no fear of darkness. Above all, that strength lives in an open heart.
She must be hinting at something in here. Let's look around.
Do they still sing verses to the benedictions every Friday? That canticle was Justinia's favorite.
Yes, of course. We'd never give up the traditions of our most beloved divine.
That is lovely to hear. I stare up at the breach sometimes. It's terrifying, but beautiful in its way.
It is beautiful.
Have you seen it by sunrise?
When the sun rises through it, it splits into what looks like 1,000 suns, like a broken mirror.
Yes, spectacular, isn't it? You must be careful, Natalie. Justinia's enemies are making their move, vying for position and the Sunburst throne. I was in the cloister in Lothering when the Blight began. There was a lot of fear back then. No one knew what was going to happen, whether we would live or die. And then one morning, I found this. Even in the midst of all this, Maker hasn't abandoned us. An open heart. Well, that one's quite literal. And morbid. But Justinia always said that compassion was my greatest strength. Doubt is easy. It takes courage to trust.
What was that?
Looks like we opened something. Sorry to keep you waiting.
When do you want some ham?
Good old Leliana was playing you the whole time. Didn't you realize?
They never sing the benedictions here on Fridays, Natalie. Something so simple. And you got it so wrong. I wanted to believe, but you were lying from the start. Keep that pretty mouth shut if you must, dear. You've already told me everything I need to know. The prickleweed burrs on your hem. talking about the sun rising through the breach. It all points to a single place. Morel in the Dales, Grand Cleric Victoire's bastion. She sent you, didn't she? Victoire was always an opportunist.
Who is this Grand Cleric? I've never heard of her.
An experienced cleric. She never agreed with Justinia, but kept her ideas to herself. I suppose now, with Justinia dead, she thought she could make her move.
Man, you want some ham? Got some ham, friend. Quinn, it's just in a bag in the fridge. Are you gonna eat some ham now?
She sent Natalie here to see what
That is that I'm cooking it on the stove and not in some pot of water in the microwave.
Stop us? You must be joking.
Mother Victoire is well loved by many.
Are you awake, Quinn?
More enemies than you know.
And Victoire thinks she can ally with them.
We don't have to be at odds, Natalie. You could come with us, join the Inquisition.
I was called to serve the Grand Cleric. I will not betray her. Kill me then. I am not afraid to die for my beliefs. At least I still know what I believe.
Release her, Liliana. She is no threat.
The Grand Cleric?
She is one woman. We are the Inquisition.
The Inquisitor has spoken. Run. Tell your mistress that she has a choice. The Inquisition is coming. No! This can't be it. There's nothing here.
Wait. Want some ham now?
It's not what you expected. That doesn't mean it's nothing.
There's a message carved in the lid. The left hand should lay down her burden. She's releasing me. The divine has a long reach, but it is always her left hand that stretches out. 1,000 lies, 1,000 deaths. Her commands, but my conscience that bore the consequences.
She apologized in the Fade. She said she failed you. This is what she meant.
All this time, Justinia carried the fear that she was using me. Just like I'd been used in the past. But Marjolaine's games were trifles. Justinia gambled with the fate of nations. She needed me. No one else could have done what I did. She knows that.
Then you have to let it go. Let her go. You don't owe her anything anymore.
If it were not for you, I would have killed Natalie and called it a good thing. Thank you for showing me what was right when I couldn't see it for myself. There are things that must be said, but not here. I will see you back at Skyhold.
Zelda, did you get it? Come here.